Hi, I'm Rob Campbell, and today we're joined by the co-founders of Tru Grit, Brandon Hearn and Matt Piva. Guys, thanks for making time to join us today.
Thanks, Rob.
Cool.
Thanks for
So
having
you're
us.
one of those like crazy stories people hear, like those guys did what and they did it when, like how quick this came about and the success you've had. I think it'd be cool to start with like, what about really at the beginning? Like, how did the idea of Tru Grit come about?
Yeah, I guess I'll start off. I mean, really on the brand side was more of like a pipe dream of wanting to do something from all the years of experience that, brands I've been around and athletes and just people that inspired me to build something one day that meant more than just a t-shirt or a product. And it was in 2019. I was in between a few projects on the commercial side. And, we always called it Ferraris in the garage when it came time to business planning and from some previous roles. And I built Tru Grit out and didn't tell anybody about it. Made a website, made a social media page, and, trademarked the logo, made a couple t-shirts, wore them to the gym. And, that's where kind of it all started. And, it was something I was hoping to get to one day. And that was in 2019, about August of 2019.
Cool. And then Brandon, how about your involvement here? Like, you guys, had a previous relationship, how about a little bit of that? Like, if you guys coming together and really turning this into something that you're going to work on together?
I'll give you more of the romantic side. Matt's just trying to just give the top line. I mean, Matt and I, we cut our teeth at No Fear back in the day. No Fear was that company that I still respect the guys who started it, right? The company's not around, but they taught you everything about, you don't have meetings about meetings. You say what you do and you do what you say, and you go fast. And, a lot of companies like to plan and insert product over 18 months and do these things. And that's not how we were really taught to do business. So Matt and I met each other back in No Fear, and we always stayed in touch along the ways. I mean, I could get into some of the stories that, are probably not the most HR friendly about how an 18-year-old guy like Matt shows up to a company like No Fear and just gets put through the ringer. And I mean, literally through the ringer, strapped to chairs with helmets and things like that, right? But the guy always came out.
Those are different times. That was because hazing new kids was all right back then, yeah.
So I always respected Matt. I watched him, grow and go to these really amazing companies, which we can get into. And so we just always stayed in touch. But I would interview people, and I would interview people and use Matt as an analogy of, if someone gets in and has their mind set and they put it to what they want to accomplish, that it can get done. So we always just stayed in touch. And so about 19, as Matt said, we just started talking about stuff. I went out to CES or GES or whatever it's called, the Consumer Electronics Show. And we sat down, we were just going over ideas. Like, I was working at a big corporate company and, doing really well there, but it didn't feel like anything was getting, I was accomplishing a lot, but there was a lot of handcuffing going on. I felt like I was shackled up. So, Matt had kind of told me about some of these things. And in 2020, when the world kind of fell on its head with COVID, Matt and I were looking at options on, how do we come out of this thing ahead in life? And so, one day, we talked about some fitness equipment. I had even looked at doing some fitness equipment at the company I was with at the time. And I actually brought it up to the head guys there, and they're just like, yeah, fitness equipment doesn't make sense. No one's buying that. And I'm like, okay. So, Best Buy had reached out to us and said, hey, do you guys first Best Buy reached out to me and said, can you introduce us to Rogue Fitness? I'll just say it. And I said, yeah, I know Katie and Bill Henninger at Rogue Fitness. I've spent time with them at CrossFit Games. Let me send them a message, I still have the messages today. I reached out to both of them saying, hey, Best Buy wants to buy some fitness equipment. At the time, I said, Best Buy fitness equipment doesn't make sense, right? And so, they basically said, how about this? We've done $30-something million in treadmills in a few months. And I'm like, geez, that's a big business. And I said, look, I don't have a fitness equipment company. Let me introduce you to Bill and Katie. Let me see if they have any interest. And I reached out to them, just going, look, I don't want a job. I don't want to work for you. I don't want a commission. Send me some equipment for my garage, basically. And they just weren't interested. So I called Matt that day actually and said, you'll never believe the phone call I had. I tried to get a hold of the people over at Rogue. They don't want to even chat. And Best Buy wants to buy fitness equipment. And Matt goes, I have a brand. And right when he said it, I was like, oh my God, you got a brand. I know what that means, Matt. You've got something that's already pretty far along the line. And that means we're actually going to go probably start something. You just feel the pain of what you're getting ready to go through. It's like you're showing up to the obstacle course on that TV show and you're like, this is just going to hurt the whole way through. But I mean, why not? You know, there's nothing else going on. I'm staying at home with my kids, listening to my kids, trying to figure out how to Skype call their teachers. And I'm like, I need something to keep my mind straight. So that's kind of how this team came together. You know, Matt and I have known each other since 2006. So it kind of gives you a little bit of our, you know, just a history of knowing each other and getting to see if we actually like each other or not over that, you know, long period of time.
Nice. So Matt, this brand that you had worked on already and had ready to go, and I have this opportunity, what was it about Tru Grit? Like, what was kind of your reason for being and your competitive advantage that you saw would be different in the market?
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I first, you know, started drawing this, it was at my home office on the chalkboard. And, you know, growing up, I have, you know, Southern California background here in North County, San Diego. Growing up in all pillars of sport, a lot of military members in my family. Grew up going to air shows, and my grandfather was a fighter pilot. Grew up watching the old John Wayne movies, and you know, obviously there was some influence there. And I always loved the term, and I just started doing kind of a deep dive search of what words meant and how I built something around something kind of a powerful meaning. And it wasn't just some word I made up. It was kind of a saying that was kind of old school. No one really was using it much. It was just kind of this film out there that meant something to somebody in that space. So really for me, it's like that always meant something more to me, just from my childhood, watching the film. And then, you know, the term as we grew up and, you know, just being gritty and getting down and doing it. And I think that resembled a lot of what I've learned over the, you know, 10 plus years in my career of, say, sports marketing or sales. And, you know, I wanted it just to mean more than a logo on the shirt when I would go to the gym or go to work or, you know, go to the market. And so I didn't tell anybody about it really. And besides my wife was the only one that knew. And, you know, I built the .com, I built the Instagram, I made some posts, and I even posted a few things on my Instagram story. And, you know, about it as it almost looked like it might've been one of my clients at the time. And then that was really it. And I got busy back with, you know, production work and commercial jobs at the time. I was doing a lot of producing and directing content for other brands. And it just kind of got pushed back into the corner of, say, the garage, per se. Yeah, when the world went upside down, that's when, you know, obviously the phone call happened. But for me, right when Brandon, you know, told me about the opportunity, I said, I have this brand. And he's like, what do you mean? We talk like all the time. We're like really good friends, or like, you know, we've known each other forever. What do you mean you have a brand? I'm like, well, it's one of the kind of Ferraris in the garage. It's sitting on my desktop on a folder. And, you know, I work on it when I have time or when ideas come to me. And, you know, I just kept adding and adding things there, from brand guidelines to designs and, you know, kind of a product timeline to, you know, the details into what I was looking to do with this. You know, and again, with all the athletes and amazing people I've been lucky to work with, inspired me to do something like this and hope to do it one day. I just had no clue it was going to happen this fast.
Nice. You know, your brand claim, the idea of refusing to quit, you know, those refuse to quit. It's, you know, on the aggressive side for sure. Did you have a certain audience in mind when you were shaping this brand, or someone you wanted to cater to?
Yeah, I think that's the problem with some brands. They're very hyper focused, right? And not just to be cliche and say we're for everybody. I think one thing about the state of the world in, say, 2020 and beyond, and, you know, the wildness that's happening out there of, you know, just understanding not only just mental health, but physical health, good diet and staying fit is super important. Whether you're a stay-at-home dad or mom, or you work hard 9 to 5 and you come home and you got to be energized with your kids, or you're, you know, a single person that comes home and wants to just stay fit and healthy. You know, for us, it's refusing to quit in all things that you do. And how do we make products for, you know, really not just pillars of sport, but different pillars of influence for our consumers that inspire them to go home and get the sweat in, or wake up early and get their sweat in, because again, it's a big part of your mental health, not just the physical side. You know, so for us, that's kind of the mantra behind it. And it was something I had kind of in place from the beginning, which, you know, we ended up trademarking as well. But for us, that's how do we continue to excite and inspire our consumers?
So Brandon, now you've got this huge client like Best Buy, this opportunity. You've got a great friend with a solid brand. You know, what happens next? Where does the kind of journey take you?
You know, so I spent a lot of time traveling through my career. I've always been a product guy. see things. I have ideas. I like to work with my hands. I like to build cars in my spare time. And so I'm always looking at things. And so I spent a lot of time traveling. And when I would go to Asia or I'd go even down to Mexico, I wouldn't just go and, the typical plan of attack when you go to, any of these countries on travel, you go work all day and then you see how hard you can party at night and you get up and do it over again. I started understanding that a lot of these guys and gals would want to introduce you to another person or another factory. So I spent a lot of time over in, Asia and down in Mexico, getting to meet different relationships. So when the opportunity presented itself and, Matt basically, shell shocked me that, hey, we're going to go do this. We should go do this. Right away, I already knew who to pick up the phone to. I started calling people that I knew who could help me immediately. And the people were willing to help me because, I've always tried to run a good business no matter who I've worked for in the past. And I would always do whatever it took to take care of good suppliers. And it was always, you pay on time, you do what you say what you do, right? Kind of those instilled, instilled learnings that I had back at the, No Fear in the day. And when I picked up the phone, they were all willing to help. Everyone was willing to jump on it. Everyone was willing to connect me to who they knew, cousin, friend, brother, whatever it might be. So all of a sudden we catapulted into the production opportunity. So for us, it was, we knew how to make it. I knew how to make it better. Not saying that, we're the best thing. It's just from a mechanical side, how do we improve these things, right? What do we do different? And so, you have the retailer, you have, the brand, the marketing, the touch and the feel, let's go kind of a situation. It was like, it's here. Let's just do it. It's going to be a painful exercise by all means, just knowing what we're going to go up against. But, you only live once, right? Like, why not take a chance? I'd rather wake up a year from now going, well, we got the crap kicked out of us and it was the greatest thing ever. At least we tried, at least we did it,
Excellent. Well, so how about the financing? You have all these things in place. You need some money, unless you guys self-finance this. How'd you go and get the cash to make this happen?
Yeah. So, during the whole pandemic, Matt and I did a few trades on stuff. I come from nothing. I mean, literally, parents kicked me out at 18. I lived in my truck, lived on couches, kind of a situation. And, Matt, his family, his dad has been a successful guy, but his dad's like, I can do something for myself. Good luck for yourself, kid. Like, his dad's like one of the most brass tacks guys, like, I love it. So Matt doesn't come from, anything either. So we had made some money doing some trades on a few things. Kind of when the pandemic hit, we saw some opportunity and jumped on it. And opposed to running out and spending like crazy, we kept a lot of money away in a bank account. And when we figured, okay, when the world turns back on, we'll eventually use that money to go pay ourselves out or just do something. So when this opportunity came up, we were sitting on a little pile of cash and we said, look, we can finance this first Best Buy PO on our own. We can do it. We don't need anyone. We don't need any banks. I don't need any credit cards. We can physically do it out of the money that we've sat on and that we created during this kind of opportunity. And so we were able to fund the first PO out of Best Buy completely on our own. It was pretty wild to see, like what we had built in this little bank account. But when Target came to the table, that's when everything changed. And I mean, it's kind of where the story starts heating up pretty good, because that's just when literally the shit hit the fan. I mean, I don't even know how else to say it. It's the best way of saying it. It hit the fan.
I mean, you got two guys that you got two guys that were, pitching Best Buy in Brandon's living room during a nitro cold brews. High-fiving after the call. We had just opened a bank account. We just formalized an LLC agreement. We had done all the homework on what we could credibly make and solve for these guys on a retail level. And next thing you know, Target comes to the table, smashes us over the head with an opportunity that guys like us dreamed about. You're like, holy crap, this is happening a little bit faster than we thought. And so we went to work and we picked up the phones and, started calling all these firms. I mean, first we were talking to American Express. Can these guys, help us? Can Chase Bank help us? They're like, you guys just opened an account like a month or two ago. Like, we can't finance this PO for you. And reality starts setting in. Like, we really need to raise some capital, or we had a hard time saying no because we saw the opportunity. And I think the name kind of the business says it all. And we just went to work head down. And again, like Brandon said, I'm not the guy that calls my parents for help or calls my uncle or cousin or, whoever. I want to do it on my own. And, I come from a construction family and I'm the one that kind of took a hard right. And so, I grew up in that space, but, always wanted to work hard at what I believed I was passionate about. And so between Brandon and I, we're like, we're not going to all ask family or friends. We need to do this like adults and do it the right way. And let's go get someone that can help us, bring the cash in the door to allow us to deliver and produce this for Target. And that'll say a lot about the credibility of us as, owners of this company, but also what we're capable of doing during a time when people were, just kind of hanging out and watching Netflix. We went to work, and it wasn't just 9 to 5. It was 24/7, packaging, products when they came in damaged, to driving forklifts, to, trying to get a little workout in between. And I mean, shit, I think we got plenty of workouts in along the way, but I think that was the biggest challenge was finding that first, solution to fund the Target deal.
Sure. And what was there something that put that over the top? Lining up funding can be tough anytime, and you're doing it, during the pandemic. Was there, do you attribute anything specific to, getting that initial batch of funding?
Yeah,
I'll let Brandon jump in on that.
Yeah, we'd reached out to a lot of different firms, and then we were presented an opportunity to speak to a firm out east. And the gentleman said, look, it was kind of the last. We kept telling Target, they're like, hey, are you guys working on it? We're like, yeah, we're working on it. And Matt's just ripping money out of the bank account to try to get the deposits out. And, we're just sweating, going, okay, all the money that we built out is just gone. And if we don't pay these factories, the other half, the money's just gone. So we literally basically exhausted all that cash out, especially, with Target coming on board, and kind of really in the last hour of that window of not being able to make that first PO date, the capital guys came through. It came through at 37% interest, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, 37% interest. And it's like, nobody else was standing at the table with a check in hand, willing to give us, $5 million to go fund this thing. And they weren't funding us; they were literally funding the PO at hand. And hindsight, I still wouldn't change anything about it. It was people. Some people call it predatory lending, whatever you want to call it. They were there; they stood there, and they wrote a check every single time we needed help to go buy inventory or pay for freight. So we were able to get the deal done on the capital side, and thankfully we did, because the POs just kept coming. Right? It just. Our first PO from Best Buy was, called $1 million, and we were able to cover that. And then you have, Target at $5 million, and then Target comes back again at, another 3, and then Best Buy at 2. And all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, before you know it, you've got, $30 million out in purchase orders to these suppliers. And, to Matt's point, it was really just a couple of us, handling this. I'm up at 2 a.m., going to bed at, 1, getting up at 3, just barely sleeping on the phone with China, left and right. I wanted to do do more in the USA, but initially you just could not do it. And Mexico was in a state of pandemic in a big way. So I couldn't get any help down there. So it just, we were able to put together a big deal, but thankfully these guys were able to back us up. And again, it's insane rates. We're still dealing with it today and dealing with the ramifications of taking that. However, this thing would have never existed without those guys stepping up to the plate.
I was going to say that sounds like the kind of terms Matt would find out at the construction site from some lending from one of the guys down there. That's definitely aggressive. But you're able to at least get things going, and you said you're still in the process of kind of unwinding from that and getting ahead of it.
Yeah, so we're still unwinding. The world, went from $1,200 containers. We were moving 1,200 containers a quarter. We quickly became one of the largest. Actually, I think at one point we still might be the largest dumbbell importer in the United States. So the capital guys just kept going and kept funding. And, Matt and I kept going, we got to reduce these guys. We got to reduce them down. But at the end of the day, we still own the majority of Tru Grit Fitness. We didn't give up the equity. It was, how do you want it? Do you want to give up the equity and own 10% of this thing when it's all said and done? Or do you want to own, we still own 96% of the company, on our side. So, we took the expensive capital. We're working through it. Our capital guys have been pretty reasonable guys. Actually, after this, we get on a call with them. We have kind of our weekly catch-ups. And, we finally have been able to get our arms really around the beast. Going from, $0 to $50 million with just 3 of us trying to, tackle this thing, it's a pretty heavy lift. So it's taken a while to get our arms just around the business. And for the first time ever, it finally feels like we have our arms around the business. And now we start getting intelligent on these decisions with these capital guys. and who are still standing at the plate going, how do we help you guys? Which is a kind of a testament of what we've been able to do. And we're always transparent. We always tell them the good news and the bad news, but we've been super lucky. I mean, really to have these guys circle the wagon with us.
And so that's a great point about maintaining the equity and having that there throughout the process. You mentioned that, the thing that turns people's heads, I think, is that revenue growth in that short amount of time. Is there anything in particular you attribute that to? Any of the special things that, was going on, or anything that you did behind the scenes?
Just literally the company is such a funny thing to say, but it's just, we're probably the most gritty guys you'll meet. We'll do whatever it takes to get it done. We could start getting into some of the wild stories of just how this thing was built. From containers falling over to sinkholes in parking lots to, looking like we had a homeless camp in the backyard with tents when it's raining and, pushing water off. We just went through the most insane.
When we started this business, it was a 6,500 square foot warehouse with a half-acre yard in Vista, California. And, we went from zero to, really just maxing this space out really quickly to where we were notifying our landlord like 3 months into the lease, like, we need more space. What do you have available? And he says, we don't have any. You're going to need a new building. And by the way, you're literally blocking the route to get in and out of this business park by the massive amount of trucks that you have coming and going from your little warehouse. We need to figure something out here. And, next thing you know, we grew up into a 40,000 square foot building, and then it just continued to grow from there. And, we have several buildings, in Southern California and one in Vegas. So, starting in that 6,500 square foot building, it was a big deal. We got our first forklift and we were like, holy crap, we got a forklift. This is insane. Making those decisions were like big moments. And it was like, who got to drive the forklift was a big deal, And now we've got, I don't know, like 14 of them, and I don't know, there's probably more than that. But, on our side, it was a humbling experience to start, but then, it just continued to ramp. And, when it rained, I swear we got the worst rain year in 2020 in Southern California because we had, pallets all in the back of our yard, which saved us. It was a fenced in yard. And we had loading docks in that yard, and we just had pallets and containers loading in and loading out. We thought we can get the stuff out faster, but with, soon to come a national trucking shortage, these retailers couldn't pick up their products fast enough. So next thing you know, we're stuck, warehousing and storing these goods, trying to turn them as fast as we can. Meanwhile, just hemorrhaging in space. So then next thing you know, we become, the little bit of whale in North County, San Diego here, leasing up all these buildings to fulfill all of this inventory and distribute. And it wasn't just the need for warehouse, it was the need for a warehouse with a large amount of dock space to handle the inbounds and the outbounds. And, it takes a team and, continue to add in those team members to handle that workload, from warehouse employees to, special, people that can really handle the connectors from, our ERP system to NetSuite to, speaking all those languages between SBS. That's stuff that makes my brain hurt. I'm a marketing content brand guy, and Brandon and, his superpowers of sales and just, manufacturing and supply chain, we just, really found ways to get together and sit down and get it done and continue to bring people in that were willing to do the work, but also were pros in those pillars and had good experience to help us get this thing going and continue to add value to being efficient. Because for a while there, you're just doing whatever it takes.
Right. So I do want to, we could talk logistics all day. I'm fascinated by the idea of moving heavy stuff around too. You have all those added complications, but I do want to get to that point you brought up of, quick growth. You mentioned first of all, I'm glad you guys aren't fighting over forklifts anymore. There's plenty to go around. So that's nice. But you have added a lot of people, right? You're growing quickly. And how, it's been such a whirlwind. It all happened so fast. How are you able to, onboard people and have a sense of company culture at a time when people are coming in so quick? Like, what have you done to make sure that happens?
Yeah. For really the onboarding side of things is, fortunately, again, people either love me or hate me. Matt always like, people, you're a polarizing guy. Everyone loves Matt. Like, I think Matt's baptized half the North County. I think he's like, the guy's like, you ask anyone about Matt, they just love Matt. And I'm kind of the guy that you either love me or hate me. And fortunately, I've always done people right. I've always just been very transparent and clear. So you always know where I stand. But because of that, we were able to hire a lot of superpower talent at a really fast rate. I mean, the team of directors that we have here and staff members, I would say 60% of our office staff, actually probably closer to 70, are people that I've worked with since 2005 at different companies, at different places I've interacted with. So when we call them, they have their full-time job and we tell them what's going on, they'd walk into the building and it was always like the sticker shock for people like, oh my God, like I didn't know you guys were really doing this. I just thought you guys were some little shop, selling fitness equipment, or we had no clue it looks like this. Right. And so they realize, okay, this is real. And then you go, hey, here's our POs. And they're like, okay, this is definitely real. And so they were willing to leave their jobs, come in and start helping us. So, getting the talent in the door wasn't so difficult on the high horsepower people. The challenge was really the warehousing staff, because, we were saying this morning, we had so much overtime. Our warehouse people were making $70,000 a year at one point. That's how much volume was going out that back door and how many days a week people were working. I mean, it's insane, right? And it's not that we were paying them that as a salary. It's just that's how many hours we're clicking off during the week and how many trucks we had coming in. At the first building, Rob, we would have 18 trucks in a small little parking lot. I'm running around buying breakfast burritos, lunch, whatever it took. We had this place called Rito Saco. I think we spent a couple grand there in the month buying all these truckers food so they wouldn't drive away because they were waiting for the docks to open. We were cutting dock railing down, turned one dock into three. We were just doing the craziest stuff to get it done. Even on the, just the amount of volume it takes. I mean, no one really understands what it takes to move a full container full of dumbbells. It's a lot of work, and what happens in transit and stuff falling down. So it's a lot of work, but, on the culture side, it's a lot off to, Matt. Matt is I always joke, I should never name my kids. If I ever want to buy something, I always tell Matt he should buy one first so he can design it. I have zero talent when it comes to look, feel, touch, right? That's Matt's superpower. So he goes in the office and he's like, hey, we should get an extra cold brew coffee. The entire staff loves it. It's just a little perks and things that we do. Plus, I think everybody always knows where they stand with us here. And I could candidly say pretty much everyone that's in this building has probably had the most success on their own personal side than they really ever had. And they've been empowered to either make it or not, where they never could really do that before at their other companies. So I feel like we built an amazing culture because of that. I've been the guy who, the last company I worked for, if you weren't in the cool club, you didn't get that final title and get all the perks, right? Even though I was outperforming the people and doing a better job, just because I didn't want to go kiss someone's butt or go rub shoulders or put a collared shirt on every day. And I didn't fit in, right? Well, here, anybody can fit in here. Anyone here can, if you work hard here and you really do care and put in that time, we have people here that are just doing amazing things in their career that they would have never been able to do elsewhere. And it's because they are willing to work and they're willing to help row in the direction that we need to go.
I just say, so this is all happening fast, but now you had put together this plan a while back. So you kind of, I think, knew where you wanted to come at this from a marketing perspective. You talked a little bit about, the blog online and your whole, content marketing mix. How big of a role does that play? And what is your strategy, using all of the content side and partnerships, especially with like influencers and avenues like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on establishing, brand guidelines was really important for us. And it wasn't just, when people say brand guidelines, like just logo usage and colors, it was, really staying true to who we wanted to be as a brand and a company, and working with athletes and influencers that fit that. And really for us, there was a lot of forced campaigns in the market with big agency dollars behind them. And in today's world, a lot of people see right through that, and the consumers see right through that. And there's a lot of forced marketing and forced relationships between athletes and products. We all see them today. And in today's world, it's hard to fake it. And so just being a part of some of the companies that I've learned a lot of things from, a lot of amazing people I was able to work with and surround myself with. I feel very fortunate for those years and times. I learned a lot of that, and I just tried to be a sponge. And now having something that, I was able to learn all that over the years of what not to do and how to do it. From my short time in nightlife, I learned a lot in that short time, but I also learned a lot over the years from product marketing and product development that I knew that were little nuances that I wanted to stand for, and little things that meant a lot to me that may not mean a lot to somebody else. And, keeping control of that and staying true to that and following, what we are as a brand and staying true and authentic to who we are at Tru Grit is important. And it's still very early for us. We're just now telling kind of a story of who we are, what we stand for, and the athletes that we're going to be continuing to support, and, some new ones to talk about soon. But for us, it was to not just be a brand for, say, one pillar of sport or powerlifting or, say, CrossFit. I grew up here in Southern California. We grew up having surf PE, for lunch, and surfing Tamarack, to playing football, and then going to the desert and riding Ocotillo on a good, weather day after some rain. So being in this ultimate playground here in North County was, how do we build a brand and a culture that stood for that? Because nowadays, all those people and all those athletes and all those influencers are working out and training, and to stay fit mentally, to stay fit, physically. The home gym is now the new wine cellar, whether you're using it as much as you should or not. We want to stand for the company that resonates for our consumers, that makes the best product and inspires them to stay fit and be the best at what they do and who they are. So with that being said, it was just important to kind of have those key, stakes in the ground of who we want to be and what we want to stand for. And it's been a lot of fun. And, every day it's just, how do you continue to surround yourself with those people to stay on point and stay on brand and storytell. I still have a lot of camera equipment from my production days, and I still love to pick up the camera and shoot a lot of video and produce a lot of content. So there'll be a lot more of that in the future here as we storytell a lot more and really bring our brand to life through emotional content, inspiring content, but also have a different approach than the typical brands out there that are very cookie cutter. I've been on the agency side for a little while, and I've hired big agencies at former roles, and they want to spend all your money and deliver a little bit of assets. And I've been a little agency guy where you get barely any money and you got to deliver all the assets. So how do we maximize our marketing spend, but also stay on top of who we are, stay on brand, inspire our consumers, and continue to innovate, not just on the product side, but the marketing side.
I think a lot of what you said there is kind of summarized in the video recently on the blog, like the workout with the North Shore lifeguard. So that was kind of a cool, different kind of mix. It shows something a little more original. And now that we know about your background, it makes sense. It kind of plays into the North County, lifestyle and combining different elements. What do you look for in partnership, whether it's an athlete or influencer relationship or an organization?
Matt, I'll let you
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, on the athlete side is for somebody that fits our brand, that is inspiring, that actually uses products, that trains. It's funny, I got some athlete managers that I know reach out trying to get me to sign some athletes early on, and I was like, cool, what's their garage gym look like, or what are they working out with? And he's like, oh, they don't really train much, but it could be something cool. I'm like, well, if they don't train now, it's probably not very organic to force kettlebells or a runner into their garage for a workout if they're not currently training like that. So it's, again, staying authentic to athletes and ambassadors that us. But on the partnership side, there's just so much opportunity to really work with a lot of amazing brands that people have spent a lot of time around. I mean, for example, Pat Tenori, very inspiring to me and what he built in 20 years. Got to spend some time with Pat in the last year going into the new year, and we're supporting Pat on his gym and going to be rebuilding their gym up at their headquarters in Orange County. And it's really amazing what they built in their culture. But how do we continue to surround ourselves with good people and partners and brands that inspire us, but also how do we help collaborate on the fitness, side and equipment side, and really bring spaces like his gym to life, in partnership. So things like that have been a lot of fun and, really inspiring to me to look up to people my whole career, like Pat, and now I get to work with him on some things on the collaboration side. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great example of what's, you did with Ruka too, but kind of combining different worlds. It always has that kind of, different vibe to it, and, just bringing in another influence somewhere else. If you guys are cool, I'd like to kind of switch back to on the business side a little bit. You have a unique origin here where you kind of had the distribution. It came from this opportunity, with Best Buy, and then, let's put it together. And then Target came up. So you had a lot of your distribution strategy kind of there for you. Now that you've kind of got your footing a little bit and you're looking ahead, what is the strategy moving forward? Are you continuing to grow there? Are you bringing in a direct-to-consumer element? Are you trying to get ahead and be more proactive? What's your main focus now that you have a chance to, kind of dictate what you want to do?
Yeah, so I mean, we had all the big box guys come in. We even still work with Walmart as well. I mean, all the big guys and gals came to the table, and it really helped us just propel the brand into kind of orbit immediately. It's interesting. People look at the company, go, God, you guys did 50 million plus in your first year. We were burning 50 grand a day in storage fees at the LA port, right? Like, wrap your head around that for 30 days. Like, the pain of just high volume big box business. There's a lot going on inside of that world. So for us, we want to do, basically business in a good way, being a third being big box retail store, a third being D2C, and a third being gyms, right? So whether it be, when we say gyms, it could be your, CrossFit gym, it could be your high school gym, it could be your professional team gym, it could be, MMA gym, it could be that. And by doing that, big box retail is always, it's very attractive. You're like, gosh, it's a big PO, a lot of money really quick. But by the time you're all said and done with the chargebacks and markdowns and the fees and the marketing credits and all that stuff, there's not a lot of margin to be had there. It's a good opportunity to give you big volume, which helps you on the supply side, but it can be a lot of challenge on, trying to make money doing that. So for us, breaking the business into a third allows for us to be nimble. So if big box falls down, we can focus on D2C. If D2C is slow, hopefully big box picks up. The gym business is continuous no matter what's going on. Obviously, there's some stuff through COVID where it had some challenges, but that's our focus on how we continue to go with the business. I'd rather scale back a little bit, even just to, it's okay sometimes to tell, the customer no, and not before we were just willing to do whatever it took to get the product out the door. Now it's like, okay, now we don't need to go make, 28 million pounds of dumbbells to make this business make sense. Like, why don't we go make 15 million pounds of dumbbells to make it make sense and not have to kill ourselves trying to get it done and out the door. So that's really our strategy kind of, moving forward, and it's already into effect, and we're really seeing some benefits of having that happen.
So two guys running a business together are also friends. Is that where there's going to be frustrating days? How do you guys mitigate that? I heard a rumor that you have a cool take on smoke breaks as well. Low class. Does that help keep tempers mitigated?
Yeah, I mean, the smoke break thing came. I worked at a big corporate company, and I'd always talk on the phone. I like to walk around my office a lot. I'd always see people walk in the building smoking grits, and I'm like, God, these people take a lot of time away from their desk to go smoke. Like, this is nuts. Like, I work all day long, and Bob and Jill are downstairs just ripping smoke breaks for 20 minutes. So I grabbed, one of our first employees, Dave, and said, hey, let's go downstairs and do a smoke break. He's like, what is that? He's like, throw some gym equipment on. And we absolutely just destroyed ourselves on an air bike. And I mean, we were both just sick. And so we started this thing up. I was like, hey, Matt, let's go do a smoke break. He's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. We're going to go pick up something and do it for just all out effort. And so it's been great to have that and add that into the culture. And, I'll just say from my side, the difference between Matt and I is I know Matt's superpower. If something needs a look, a feel, a touch, how we should talk about it, just any of that brand touch, feel, look, I just stay out of it. Like, I walk out of half the meetings like, Matt's got it. I don't worry about it because I trust Matt wholeheartedly on his decision and his business professional, outlook on things. And, he allows me to do the same. I mean, we might give each other feedback, but I mean, yeah, we've had some candid conversations. It's like, we have them real quick. We go take a lap around the building and we come back in and go back to work. I mean, that's the difference. I've watched a lot of companies implode because the two guys or the four guys up top just can't work together. And it's just, we've always had this clear outline of like, hey, let's just chat about it. even if we had to go roll around the parking lot for a few minutes and just kind of kiddie punch each other, like, so be it. But like, at the end of the day, we'll get up, I'll dust us back off, we'll go have a coffee together, and it's done, right? So, I mean, that's my take, Matt. I'll let you chime in.
Yeah, the smoke breaks, for us to get out and get even just 5 minutes in on our new grit runner at level 6 of resistance, it'll put you on the floor. And we had some NFL athletes in Vegas last weekend. We were shooting some content, and they'd never been on our runners, and they're amazing athletes, and they're rolling on the floor for at least 15, 20 minutes after a 30-second sprint, full speed. And so these smoke breaks are a real thing, and the company loves it. I'll go downstairs sometimes and catch employees getting a quick 20 set on the bench, or someone on the runner, or someone on the bike, and it's a fun culture, and empowering these employees to have no excuse to get sweating. I love it. It's a lot of fun. And then, yeah, Brandon, we're not only good friends, but we both have our superpowers, and we both understand each other quite well. I think it's created a really cool thing for us as a business. And, we always look after what's best for our company and our employees. I think we just care so much. I feel like some of these other companies, no offense, there's some great products and great brands, but I think we just care so much. I don't sleep much. I don't think Brandon does either, but I wouldn't change it for the world. But I think we just have the passion a bit more, and the willingness to work and do whatever it takes. So I think, hopefully, and I think all of our employees know that. So when they come to work fired up and empowered, it's a fun culture. It's a fun place to go to work. You're not like, oh, dang it, I got to go to Tru Grit today. It's I think a lot of people like to just come here, even just to pop in. The athletes come by and, get a workout in and challenge the employees. It's been a lot of fun.
So what's next for the brand, from where you guys stand? Like, what are you like, from the day to day, what are you really looking to head toward, and where do you want to be, in a few months or in next year?
I'll comment on the production side, and Matt, I'll let you lead the other part. I used some relationships out of Mexico that I met back in 2009. I went down there when the stuff was really hitting the fan down there. Actually, it was a funny deal. Somebody was trying to put Von Dutch back together, believe it or not. And so I flew down there to go meet with some guy in Mexico City. And, a couple of days before that, some businessman got drug out of there and kidnapped. And everyone's like, you're out of your mind to be going down there. And I'm like, I'm like the poorest guy in the area. They don't want anything to do with me. Like, I have nothing, right? Like, so I went in there and, got this relationship kind of going. Nothing really happened with the Von Dutch deal. They couldn't figure it out. But, I just stayed friends with those guys. And so we started doing production in Mexico. We were actively shipping out our rigs, our racks, cast iron products are coming out of there. Our plyo boxes are coming out of there. So, for us, we are now able to get on the right side of logistics, freight, duties, 3PLs out of, the other side of the border. No one's doing that. There's some stuff being made in the US here and there, but everyone's still fighting for that, allocation coming out of Asia. So for us moving forward, it's that speed up play out of Mexico. It takes about 7 to 14 days to make stuff max, with a couple day transit time via railroad or trucking. I can be at any of my factories in 3 hours. So, all the big retailers and even a lot of the gyms just are absolutely loving that. So from a company is leaning into Mexico, we'll probably pivot about 70% of our production into Mexico, and, really just take the handcuffs off on the restriction side and kind of control our own destiny. So from a product and a sales side, that's where we're at. I'll let Matt comment on the rest.
Yeah. I mean, from a product standpoint, from new products to innovations in multiple categories for us, which is exciting. From not just strength and conditioning, we've got some pretty exciting products in the recovery side that we're really excited about that we'll be announcing soon. And one of them that we've been working on for quite some time that's really exciting as well is on the storage front. We have a new modular storage solution that is a wall-mounted storage solution that you can mount basically anything onto. So the dream is to have a garage or an area in your house or area in your gym as a gym owner that you can get the equipment off the ground and on the wall, which can handle a heavy payload. So, I was working out in the garage one night and I was like, man, I just wish I had more storage and a better way to lay out my garage, whether it was a surfboard or a snowboard or get a mountain bike off the floor and up on the wall in a cool way to where I was proud to share it. But also, could still park in the garage or probably my wife will park in the garage. I'm out front. But, really for us was how do we build something that was able to handle the payload of fitness equipment, but looked looked premium, and had a modular system. So for us, some pretty exciting products that are coming out of all pillars of our equipment. But another big one, like I said, is that storage solution, which is pretty exciting. So imagine being able to mount your foldable squat rack into your wall, mount your mountain bike or your quiver of surfboards if you're Kai Lenny, or if you're Robbie Madison, you got dirt bikes everywhere and mountain bikes everywhere, helmets everywhere. How do you clean up your garage and store it in an impactful way that looks good, but also you can trust, that can handle a heavy payload? We have a pretty amazing solution that we've engineered in-house and is patent pending. So some exciting things coming out of the storage pillar as well.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that come out. It's hard to talk to you guys and not feel the, authentic enthusiasm and the vibe for what you've done. Congratulations on where you've gotten. Of course, I think people would love to hear from your perspective any advice you have for anyone maybe thinking about, taking that leap of faith right now, who are in it and just getting beat down, whether it's by logistics or predatory interest rates or whatnot. What do you have out there to keep the faith and others like you?
I would say just, first and foremost, get talent around you that you can trust and lean into. I think that's a big part of how this thing continues to go, right? Having Matt, as, my better half here, right? Pushing and really helping drive, right? It's easier to accomplish when you got someone rowing the same direction and pushing with the same kind of intensity that you are, right? It's like trying to work out by yourself and be the best athlete you can. It's a little difficult to be the number one guy on your own, right? So I think that's a big part. And it's just keep showing back up. I mean, there's days where we go home and I feel like there's nothing left to get kicked in further and, show back up again. I mean, we just keep showing back up. So if you're thinking about doing it from my perspective, is do it. It's going to be painful. As fast as wins you're going to have a lot of freaking downfalls, and it's going to be really challenging, but it's easy to throw the towel in. That's why a lot of people don't do this and they haven't made it, because they're, they're willing to throw the towel in, and, just don't throw it in, and be aware that big box retail, it's that smoking mirror, man. It's really good, but it could be they could blow you up in one day in a good way, and then they can absolutely send you out of business tomorrow. So just be mindful of that. I think that would be my take, Matt.
Absolutely. Really, the people is super important, but you also have to have a plan, at least somewhat of a plan. We knew what we were setting out to do. We wanted to make good equipment accessible and, solve an issue at hand, which was, get fitness equipment into these retailers so they can get it into the homes of the consumer during a pandemic. And that's where it all started. For us, Brandon was looking at other opportunities to take a job before this happened. I was literally about to sign the dotted line on a government job and kind of throw in the towel. And I was in a place where I was kind of just ready to move on and have something consistent. We've all been there. But again, it kind of goes back to, how do we get out of this COVID safe situation better than we went into it? And, I've talked to a lot of other business owners that have been in it a long time, and some business owners that are newer. I'm inspired by all of them, because they all have a different story, and they all have a different, roller coaster ride, because it's not perfect. And sometimes people see the sunshine and rainbows on Instagram, like, oh, wow, great photo, or wow, that product of that brand. And they don't realize what happens and what goes on behind the scenes. So for us, I just like to have an open, line of communication to anybody out there, especially if you're in North County. Give me a call, give Brandon a call, come by for a nitro cold brew or some kombucha. We got it on draft, grab some dumbbells or some product. We're happy to help support our local community. And it's been a lot of fun. But at the same time, if anybody can learn from the things that we've done or the mistakes that we've made, we've all made mistakes. And, how do we wake up every day and fine tune that carburetor of this, truck that's ripping down the highway? We're building the suspension as we're going through the whoops, and, we're pouring fuel in the tank as we're supposed to stop for gas. We just keep going, so we're just, I think, a little passionate and, can't ever give up. So, that's my advice to them. And, again, it's the people, it's having a plan and also willing to do the work. You can't give up on yourself. And sometimes you think it's time, and you got to keep pushing through it.
Well, guys, thanks so much for sharing your story and insight, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thanks, Rob.
Appreciate the time. Pleasure.